So as you can see from the thumbnail, we got some things that we need to talk about. So come on in, come on in. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for joining me for a new video. And if you're new here, you are in for a treat. If your to-do list looks like a full-time caseload and you are running your business, you are truly not a CEO. But don't you worry, because that can change today. And let me tell you, I have been there, and some days, honestly, I feel like I'm still there. So early on when I started my business in 2017, I was doing every single thing imaginable. I was having the cases, recruiting new clients. At this point, I didn't even have a team, I should say. So I was marketing the business, going to community events, building relationships, contacting insurance companies, writing out paper notes and graphing data on paper. Can you imagine? I was doing everything under the sun as it relates to being a clinician as well as being the owner and operator of the business. Fast forward a few years down the line is when I started to really try to identify how can I begin to set myself apart and honestly start to change my mindset to become a CEO within my organization. And I will most certainly talk to you all about what were some of those mindset shifts, or what was that thing that catapulted me into understanding the need to shift my mindset from clinician to CEO/owner. And it took some time. And what made me start the process of having my first hire, y'all know I can't speak, to making my first hire. So early on, I decided to make my first hire in my business. I was just all over the place. I was literally trying to bring on new clients while also servicing new clients. And it got to the point where it just became unimaginable. And I just couldn't take it anymore, honestly. I was running to various parts of New Jersey, trying to service my client. I was operating as the BCBA, facilitating the parent meetings, as well as the BCBA doing the direct service hours. And that wasn't something that continuously became feasible as my caseload began to grow. And ultimately, the goal had always been to hire staff, but I was not in the financial situation at the time to be able to have the funds in order to pay someone. And I did not know all the things that was required to be able to have an employee. So that's another video that I can probably do another time, but it's a lot that goes into having employees. And I think a lot of people don't know, because a lot of people, when we go on social media and we see these entrepreneurs, oftentimes they're solopreneurs. They don't have a team, or if they do have a team, it might be 1099 employees or people that are offshore that are helping and supporting them. So that is a very different ball game than when you have W-2 employees. So as I was mentioning, I was just super exhausted. I couldn't do it anymore. And also I realized that my growth in my business had become stalled, right? If, say, for example, I only had the capacity to operate as the BCBA and the clinician, meaning providing the direct services for 5 children, there was no way that I was going to be able to continue to grow my business, address all the things that was required on the administrative side as well as the operation side while being in session and working with families for, majority of the workday. It just was no longer sustainable. So that is then when I decided to hire my first few RBTs, also known as registered behavior technicians / behavior technicians. And still, after making those hires and growing my business, a few years later, I still felt like I was operating as a owner-operator. I was in my business 24 hours a day. It felt like 7 days a week, honestly. And I still had a caseload very much involved in every aspect of my business. So even then, the exhaustion continued. I had motivation motivation behind me, and I had internal, I would say, energy, because I was invested in making sure that my business was successful and invested in making sure that my business worked. However, in hindsight, I was honestly burnt out and I was honestly exhausted. And that started to show up for me later down the line in my business. I would often just hear myself saying to others that they were able to leave, right? Or when people would ask me about my business, and the communication that I would have about my business is other people can go as they please, other people can leave. However, me, I am tethered to this place. And it was as if it was a choice of mine that I have chosen to choose this business or this job, because that's honestly what it was, is I chose this job that I was tethered to for life and attached at the hip, and I just could not get out. And that is the mindset that I had about my business, which I think also impacted other decisions that I made as a business owner. And I think that also personally gave me ease and comfort as to why I may not have been moving forward as a CEO in my company, and gave me permission to continue to operate as a clinician within my company. And like hindsight, throughout this process, I just realized that I wasn't building a business. I just created myself another job. And not only just any job, a job that was extremely demanding, a job that had lots and lots of risk, and a job that I honestly could never walk away from, even if I tried. And I've had many moments of like that one night where it's just like that awakening moment of me just feeling like I cannot do this anymore. I cannot be the end all be all in my business. I cannot operate and manage every single thing in my business. And it's easy to do that when you might have financial constraints. It's easy to do that when you think that you are the best person and you can do it and no one else can do it like you. It's so easy to feed yourself some of those lies, right, within your business. But honestly, you're just putting so much constraints on your ability to grow. So when you are moving from that doer to the leader, it looks really different, as well as your ability to develop your business, of the ability as well to develop the people within your business, and the ability for you to truly step into your zone of genius as the visionary and the CEO within your organization. And I'm going to tell you how that looks. So for me, what it looked like is stopping of the hand raise, I'll do it, to being able to delegate. Because oftentimes as entrepreneurs or business owners, we have hired, right, down the line, if you've grown your business, if you're not there yet, these will be some gems that will help you when you get there. But we have hired people to do jobs, but I found myself, for the sake or comfort or the desire not to burden others with tasks, and mind you, work tasks that they're being paid for to do and that they've signed up to do. Isn't that funny? So me personally, again, I would find myself doing things that I'm already paying someone to do because I don't want them to feel overwhelmed. Meanwhile, I'm feeling overwhelmed because I'm not only doing my job and running the business, I'm also doing your job. There can be a lot that is difficult in that process when you're going from the doer, especially when you are a doer that gets things done. And oftentimes, most of us entrepreneurs, we have that fire and that ball of energy and spirit in us to make sure that we are getting, y'all know what I want to say, but I ain't gonna say it, getting it done. That's just what we do. That is just in our blood and our nature. But that is what we have to stop. And that is our kryptonite that will make your business crumble. And not even making your business crumble, potentially, but making you crumble on the inside. Because I personally would just feel so overwhelmed, so defeated, and not really knowing what to do. I would also feel a sense of resentment. And this is resentment that I was causing. I would be upset internally that I'm paying people to do a job that I'm still doing. And it's like, Well, you're deciding to do this job. Your employees didn't tell you to do it. You took it upon yourself to do it. So that's a you problem. But that goes to the point from us as entrepreneurs or business owners going from that doer mindset to that leader mindset. So fast forward to today, what does that look like? Going from doer to leader. So if it is that I assign a task to a team member and maybe it's within their wheelhouse, maybe it's not. The first thing that I would do is to be very clear on what is it that I am wanting from this task, or what is the final product of this assignment. If it is that the individual has been provided with the assignment, I will then ensure that they are clear on what it is that I want as the end product. Following that, I will also see if there is any support that is needed for their ability to complete this task, whether it be partnering up with someone else, whether it be an electronic support or other resource, or whether it be that I can be of support as the role of a coach to support them through. However, there is another caveat to this. If it is, say, for example, that I am providing support to an individual and they may not know what to do or how to do it, or they may be having some personal concerns or things, or a lot of tasks happening at the same time, where maybe I can help to lighten the load a little bit, I will do that as well. I operate as a leader within my organization from a community and collective approach. And if it is that someone is having some struggle and it's not something that is, customary or something that is always occurring, then absolutely I am willing to help wherever I can, especially if I have the bandwidth to do so. However, what I've also started to do is thinking about the processes and what type of resources can I create that can go well beyond this particular situation or this particular task. Because 9 times out of 10, if there is something that is happening in your business as a task, usually they're recurring. There's very rare cases in your business where it's an isolated event. And if it is, for example, something that arises and it arises for the first time, again, 9 times out of 10, it may come up again. I also had taken on that responsibility from doer to leader to being able to either create processes or systems or resources that someone can use at a later date, or me being able to clearly articulate what is it that I am wanting someone else to create to be able to benefit another person. So I'll give you a more clear example. Being that I have a therapy-based practice, and oftentimes there are treatment plans that my clinicians have to complete. So if it is that I personally do not have the bandwidth to walk someone through how to access our system to be able to generate or create the template, to pull the template, I should say, to be able to fill in the information for a client's treatment plan, what I would do is then reach out to one of my administrative assistants and say, hey, these are the things that I am trying to capture. Can you create a workflow? Can you create a video? Can you create something that will allow this person to be able to do whatever it is that is the task? And for this example, again, a treatment plan. So now I have the resources to be able to obtain additional support for that. However, say for example, you don't have an admin assistant or someone that can do those things for you. I have also been there. And in the past, what I've done is I've recorded myself accessing that information and then sending it over to a clinician and letting them know, hey, watch this. If you have any more questions, then let me know. And what that also does is it helps to provide the individuals with that resource that they need, but also putting the ball back in their court. And the old Nandy would have said, oh, okay, I've already generated it for you. You just put this here, do that there, do this there, do that there. But then when it comes around again, guess what? Knock, 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 knock. They're coming back at your door, asking for you to show them again, or asking for you to do it again. And as a business owner, I'm guilty. It's easier for me to do it for you than it is for me to show you how to do it. But in the long run, all that leads to is burnout and not resistance. I was resistant when I wasn't doing it the right way, but resentment and frustration. So allow yourself to take the time time that you need in order to create some of those processes that will help you truly in the long run. I know it's a lot of work on the front end. That's where that resistance word came from for me, because again, it's easier to just do it than to teach someone how to do it. But in the long run, you just get frustrated and you're like, why do these people keep asking me the same thing over and over and over again? Because it lives in your brain. It doesn't live on paper. So where else would they go? So this is where we're going to segue a bit into mindset. You are aware that your business can only grow as big as your mindset. If you are the visionary in your company and your mindset is, I need to be here in my business, I need to be pounding the pavement, boots on the ground, doing all the work, a part of every team, a part of every project, every single thing needs to run past my desk, every person needs to come in and check with me. I sound like the old me.
What?
I think I just described the old me. I did. I described the old me when my mindset was wild. Because you know where that left me? Burnt out, tired, not wanting to do the business, crying, looking stressed, feeling stressed, acne, big backing, all the things. I can't believe I said that. I'm really hilarious, y'all. Y'all gotta give me a comedy show. I gotta do a playlist of comedy because I'm really funny. Anywho, you have to really figure out what is it that you're wanting out of your business. If you want to be an owner operator or a clinician as well as an operator, that is fine. There is nothing wrong with that if that is truly what you want in your business. And if that is truly what you want in your business, then you also have to ask yourself, is the mindset that I currently have, is that a mindset that will allow me to continue to operating as a clinician, as an owner operator, clinician, as well as a operator of the business? And is that something that's sustainable? Ask yourself, what does my life look like currently? What does my business look like currently? And depending upon what it looks like at present day, is this something that's sustainable in the future? So these are questions that I had to ask myself. I asked myself, do you want to continue to be a owner operator or a clinician operator? And the answer is no. Sorry for screaming, y'all, but if I could say the other no. I'll give y'all the censored version, and just in case y'all unclear. Heck no. Heck to the no. I do not want to be a clinician operator. I have primarily operated as a clinician operator in my business for a majority of my business. And it is draining. And my mindset goes well beyond, and my abilities and my skill set go well beyond just operating as a clinician and as a business owner. And what made me come to this conclusion is I found myself getting a little bit less passionate about the clinical aspect of things. I really enjoyed engaging with clients as a whole, engaging with families, engaging with staff, but not from a technical component, which is really in alignment with the skill set of a clinician. I like to call myself an extroverted introvert. I truly believe I'm an introvert, but let my husband tell it. He says, what? You're extrovert. But I think I'm an extroverted introvert, but I'm more introverted. But I do really enjoy the ability to connect with people, to make them feel comfortable, to hear their stories, to chat with them, and to provide resources. I love doing that. I love going out and meeting new people. I love going out and seeing like how I can help others. I love speaking. I love social media. That's why I'm here on YouTube. So those are the things that I'm extremely passionate about. I am not passionate about the one-to-one work with a client. I am not passionate about the one-to-one work with the family. I am very passionate about being able to use my gifts, my talents, and my zone of genius to impact the masses. So that is also something that I had to ask myself. It's like, what do you really want to do? Because that will then help you to understand, do I want to be an owner operator, or do I want to be just an owner? Or do I want to be a clinician and have someone else take over more ownership of the organization? clinician. And any route that you choose is okay because that is the best route for you. And I also had to realize as a business owner, the way that I am operating my business today is not a way that is sustainable for the different phases that will come in my life. Currently, I am not a parent. However, with me being a integral piece in my business, me with being that, you hear me? That's like when you type in a word and like spell check just ain't spelling it right, you just choose a different word. Me with being such an integral piece in my business is not conducive of me being a parent. I have so much weight on me. I have so much pressure on me from all levels. As a business owner, like I mentioned before, there is so much risk involved. And there are so many things that you are responsible for. Just like think about it, right? You are responsible for the livelihood of other people. How much weight is that on you? If this thing doesn't work out, so many people, if you have a team, can be impacted by this. So I need to make sure as I'm moving into other phases of life that mind, body, and soul are in a good place, doing things that I'm extremely passionate about, that I love doing, and that also award me with the ability to do the things that is necessary for my family. Hence, when it is that I, if granted by his grace, become a mother. So when we're thinking about mindset, also something to consider is knowing that if you're a really good clinician, that does not translate to being the best CEO. So you also need to see for yourself, are there areas where I am scared to step into because of lack of skill? And that was something that I am guilty of. I'm going to raise my hand because I was so nervous and scared of just the financial aspect of owning a business. I knew that I was a bomb.com clinician. I'm good. I am a great clinician. Do I want to continue to be a clinician? No, because I feel like my skills, my talents, and my passion have shifted. And that is okay because I have been a clinician since 2012. That's a very long time. And it's okay to ebb and flow on what you desire and what you like, even as a business owner or what you want to do. I was scared of all things like true business, finance, all that jargon and stuff. And I think that put a blinder on me as a business owner because I just knew like I was good at being a clinician. I was good at understanding what my team need. I am really good at understanding what my clients and my parents need, and leading with that as a business owner is a huge no-no. And I would often have dialogue with those that were more financially savvy or in the corporate business space and just wonder like, how could you think like that? Do you know that there are people that are counting on me? Do you know this? And some of their responses were very clear-cut, direct, and to the point. And now in hindsight, it's like those people made so much sense. And those people are why those huge companies are thriving. And not to say you cannot care about your people, you cannot care about those that you service, because they are the core of the business that you operate. And without them, there is no business. However, there is a lot of value that comes from understanding what it means, even if you are a clinician, to be a business owner and to operate from a business side of things and business acumen. So if you have no clue about what business means, you just know that you've been a solo clinician and you've been rocking it out and you've got things going, but you want to grow into more of a group practice or something of that nature, don't let the lack of skill keep you from stepping fully into who you are meant to be. So if it is looking on a YouTube video, going out for a course, or doing different things that you need to do to increase your skill set, do that and bet on yourself because you are more than capable. You just may need a little bit of a resource behind you. So I want you to ask yourself as well, what is one thing that you can let go of this week? I myself am also on this journey of really stepping into being a CEO as a whole. And I have ebbed and flowed within the history of my business business of fully operating as a CEO, then kind of scaling back and being clinician and CEO, and then being clinician, janitor, this person, that person, scheduler, biller, all the things, and the CEO. So as we know, as business owners, there can be seasons and things that ebb and flow. So it's not to say that if you do finally step into the role of CEO that you may never go back to being a clinician or filling in or doing different things. It's just really important for you to know what is it that you want, or if there is the potential that you might have to step in, what is your plan so that you won't have to step in? And sometimes we need to do a little bit more on the planning part so that we're not setting ourselves up for failure. So think about one thing that you can take off your list. I'm going to share for me as I am continuing to purely step into a role as CEO. I will be honest, and I made a misstep in my business. I did not have any cases that I was overseeing, and one of our team members went on maternity leave in an effort of ease because I did not want to have the clients go to someone else and then come back to the clinician once they returned, or having a new person working with this family. The families were already familiar with me, so I thought it's just easier to have them come to me, and then when the person returned, they can just go back to the person. And in hindsight, that wasn't the best idea. It made sense in the moment, but it did not allow me the capabilities in order for me to really carry out the vision of the organization. It put additional constraints on my abilities to do that. And while it's a lesson that I learned from, I will not do it again. But it is also important for you to be able to plan ahead. So now for me, if this happens again in the future, I know there are certain things that I need to do so that I am then not making the decision to re-enter into my organization as a clinician. However, that aside, there are two things that I have done in order to really take things off my plate. So the first thing is having more consistent janitorial services. So previously we were working with an independent company and having them come in and do the cleaning for us. However, some of the day-to-day cleanings, things like that, I was more so responsible for. My team has been great in helping out where they can, but I have my standards. So even with that, I would then go back and do the things. Previously, my husband would come. We would maybe sometimes go on the weekends and do deep cleans and different things like that. He then got busy with work and life. So then it ended up being me. And then I was like, listen, this is a lot and I'm paying this company and I'm also doing it and it's just becoming too much. So I thought it's best if I get a janitor. And that has been something that I've taken off my plate and has been great. And the other thing that I have taken off my plate is really the HR ability. Granted, I am no HR professional. However, I have worked with payroll companies where they've had HR individuals or they've had platforms that can address all HR concerns and things like that. However, it still required a lot of me. I have decided that that's a no. Remember, no is a full sentence and you can tell yourself no to things. So me facilitating that is a no. In fact, it's a hard no. It's a no. And I also, again, going back to being the visionary of the company, I need to know what is it that is within my wheelhouse and that I'm willing to do, able to do, have the bandwidth to do, and what is it that is better served by someone else. And in fact, those two things that I got off my plate, the janitorial services as well as the HR services, are two things that can be better served by others. And when I tell you the weight that has been lifted off of my shoulders, just amazing. So and again, I don't want to say just as simple. I was going to say it's a simple decision that you have to make, but sometimes it takes work. For the HR services, I was vetting and talking to a few different companies, making sure financially it made sense, all the things. Same for janitorial services, interviewing, making the job description, figuring out what that would look like. Well, technically, side note, I already had a job description because we had a janitor a while back. However, updating that, interviewing, doing all the things. So it's an easy, simple yes, but it takes time. However, just like I talked about before when we were talking about like the SOPs and doing things for yourself feels easier in the moment, and there might be some resistance to making those decisions as a yes, but in the long term, it pays off. And if one of your goals is to stop being in the everyday operations of your business and feeling like you're working 24 hours, 7 days a week, these are the yeses and the sacrifices and the things that you have to do now so that you can fully step into your role as a CEO within your company. But again, that does take a mindset shift. Delaying that gratification for the ultimate prize at the end. And I will say this mantra: letting go is not failure. It is faith in the future that you are building. Can you imagine making a decision today? Just maybe you made the decision to start your business. You made a decision in an effort to change the trajectory of your life, others, your family. Think about that now. As a CEO, going from a clinician or a doer to a leader, a CEO within your business, how much would that open up for you? How much truly step into being able to carry out and direct people on the vision of your company? And for me personally, I am just ecstatic about where my company is going. We did not talk about this today. If it is that you are planning to grow your company in whatever industry you are in, and maybe one day you might want to pass your company down to a family member or someone else, or you may have to share equity in your company, or you want to exit your company, you have to think about, how can I position my company whereas if I am not involved in the day-to-day operations, that my company will still be attractive, that my company can still sustain? And that is the question that I will leave you with today. So thank you all for watching. I am keeping you all accountable though. So whatever it is that you are wanting to take away and that you can get rid of as it relates to having it on your plate, leave it in the comments below. I told you my two were janitorial services and HR services for my company. What is something that you are going to take off your plate so that you can get one step closer to becoming a CEO within your company? Leave it in the comments and I will check you in the next video. Bye for now.